Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy here for Nerds by Nerds, hanging out with some of my Nerdarchy crew, and today we're going to be talking about the DMG. Who we got with us today?
Ted.
Ryan.
So we picked up the DMG a while ago when it first came out, and I've been slowly reading through it and kind of
Absorbing,
and I guess part of the problem is for me anyway is with the DMG. It's not like the Player's Handbook or the Monster Manual, where I just want to tear in and start absorbing it all. With the DMG, I just feel like I've been dungeon mastering for so long
that it's not really new.
I don't really need this book to run the game, but
It's pretty to look at, though.
It is pretty. The art is awesome in it. Today we're just going to do a basic overview and first impression.
Right.
You guys each had a little bit of time to look at it.
Very little, but yeah.
What do you think?
Well, as with every Dungeon Master's guide that's come down the pike, there's always new charts, new tables to roll on,
New crunch.
New stuff to say. Okay, well, you're stuck in this part, you're stuck in that part. You've got a breakdown of here's the villain. What's his motivation? Where's it coming from? You've got, hey, what kind of dungeon is this, and where is it located? So that kind of stuff is always fun and useful for DMs who get mind blocked.
Yeah, it's a life raft for I'm friggin' stuck at this juncture.
Right.
Let me roll on the table. Maybe not take the first, and see the average of five times on the various tables. All right, I got something workable. This is where I'm gonna go if I get really stuck for an idea.
Now, I find some DMGs have done that way better than others, and this one does it really well. Like, the first thing I will say about this book, if you're an old school grognard like some of us, you're going to love this book because they really went back to first edition with the way the tables are laid out and the stuff they cover in here. I mean, of course, it's been modernized, but that feel is definitely pervasive throughout this book.
Right.
There's a table for what happens on a night of carousing, what happens to your character.
No, well, that's during downtime.
Yeah, downtime. But I mean, there's just tables
there's
to cover
still a table
so
to cover
many.
that.
Yeah. Everything from going to jail to becoming wealthy by gambling.
Right, exactly.
And in my 5e game, Ryan's got essentially a cover story for his rogue of being a tailor. Well, there's rules for running a successful business, there.
I was just looking at that today. I'm like, oh my god, that's Ryan's tailor shop.
Yeah. Basically, I'll get some people from the guild to be my day-to-day employees, but to also be sort of informants and information gatherers, and get that going.
According to that table, there's a 50-50 you make money on any given downtime, or you don't.
Well, no. Part of it is what influences that role on that table is the number of days in the 30-day period that your character actually stays in the business. Because I think the higher on that table that you roll consistently, the better things are business-wise. So if you're able to spend better than half the month working in your business, you're actually going to do pretty well.
Well, going back to the carousing table, you had your character level. So if you're a 20th level carouser, you're so good at carousing, you automatically avoid jail.
Right, yeah. It's I'm famous. I don't care if I set a place on fire.
If you roll really well and you score the most amount you get for gambling, your carousing is legendary.
Yeah. Something for the luckiest halfling in the world. Luckiest halfling alive.
Well, in addition to that, right? They have the villain section, which is really cool, which gives some options that...
Well, actually, the quote, we should read the quote at the very beginning of the
top part's really awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. Villains, by their actions, villains provide job security for heroes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's good stuff.
That's such a modern day phrase. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's apropos. It works.
Yeah.
Right, but in none of the DMGs I've read before has there ever said anything like that.
Yeah, but it's funny though. You could be like, I don't know, I need to come up with an adventure and just go to this section and just start rolling, and you'll have a fully fleshed out villain with his motives and how he's going to do it.
Right, and then also you could maybe also come up with a weakness. Yeah, there's a table for that on the next page.
Yeah, so
I mean, but that's more so like the big like Achilles heel lich phylactery sort of thing. If it's a normal dude, based on his motivations, you can come up with
cleric domain for death, and we get the Oathbreaker paladin, which could easily just be switched to, the anti-paladin oath.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call that.
And it's pretty sweet. It makes you almost want to intentionally break your oath.
You just want to be able to say you have an aura of hate.
Yeah.
No, you want to have a 20th level power called Dreadlord.
Yeah. So that that stuff's all really cool, and there's the standard stuff like the hazardous terrain and the traps, which is right in line with all the other books.
And for and if you want to look at it from the opposite side, you start off saying the old school DMs really get an enjoyment out of it. If you actually look at the beginning sections, it's as it's called, the Dungeonmaster's Guide. It really is very useful, both mechanically and storyline wise. A guide to be able to help new DMs run their first game.
It's nice that they had the section with it breaks down all the different sort of types of fantasy genre, like the subgenres of fantasy that you could have.
Well, the book in general does a good job of breaking things out like that. In addition, it breaks out different play styles, how your groups are, and it actually talks about something we've talked about in previous videos, which I don't know if it's been mentioned in previous editions. And that's just knowing your players and knowing what they like in their play style.
It says in there, know what kind of players you've got, and you don't have to run for all types of players, just all types of players at your table. If you got guys who are itching to, as some friends of ours say, kill shit, well then obviously you want your games to be combat heavy. If you're looking for, if your table's full of role players and they're not really seeking combat, then you can avoid the monsters and play political heavy games. It still works in D&D. It's just not the norm.
I mean, the best D&D game or the best DM is like the one that's running a game that his players enjoy. His or her players enjoy.
You're trying to engage everybody. So like the different play styles is almost like a dimmer switch on a light. Where it just goes back and you can go back and forth in between, so you can cover all the spectrums.
Yeah, actually, for the combat heavy character, like you have this combat encounter going on in the middle of role playing. Like the bad guy is having a conversation with like the other player characters. Meanwhile, the brawler character's like having a knockdown drag out fight with his guard in the background.
Kind of like Lord of the Rings, where Gandalf is talking to the King of Rohan, while Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas are fighting the guards around the sides. I mean, you could totally have that kind of encounter happen.
Yeah, and it'd be hilarious for it. Yeah, that would be great. Although it's funny, it kind of does this sort of like counter our ideal way of doing things as a DM, as it starts from the very macro, the big scope stuff, down to the actual adventures. Like the book is organized, like it's very reverse. It's like very big picture, like world building.
If you really read into it, though, it tells you that you can go the opposite way as well, and it does get into that a bit as well.
Just because the idea of like we design our adventures first and then kind of develop the parts of the world, if people haven't seen the other videos, and then just develop the parts of the world that adventure is going to touch on and not do a lot of front-loaded work.
So, but both work. It depends too, really. Like, if you're somebody who has a ton of time on your hands and nothing better to do, you could flesh out the world and all the connecting planes of existence if you wanted to.
Well, I mean, if you enjoy it, if it's something you like doing, then there's no problem with that either. But if you're very limited time to prep for the game, well, guess what? Just prep.
Yeah,
for your
you
game.
need to work on what's going to be relevant. Yeah. So when I got the book, the first thing I went to is the magic items.
Right. And that was one of the things that I looked at, and we've touched on this in previous editions. I don't really recall what the magic items were like in 4th edition beyond, like, a lot of them gave you extra action options, or whatnot. But 3rd edition was all about accruing pluses. You had a couple of things that gave you extra features and whatnot, but it was all about the crunch.
If you were not flush with magic items, you were behind the curve in 3rd edition. Like, it was built into the CR system.
Right. They started that with 3rd. I'm sure it continued to a certain degree with 4th, and 5th they chucked it.
Oh, yeah.
Thank God.
5th edition went back to more of a 2nd edition or earlier phase. Again, I started at 2nd, so I really don't have as much exposure to the previous stuff. But the magic items,
first and second, were very similar with that.
But the magic items, they go more akin to the second edition stuff. I love the things that are like, oh, gauntlets of ogre power. It's not a plus to strength. It's you have a strength of 19. If your strength is already 19 or a 20, the gauntlets aren't doing crap for you, regardless of their magical powers.
You just complain about them being broken. Oh, these suck. These are totally wonky. Just
that part doesn't really bother me.
Oh, I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
And then the halfling throws them on. He's like, ah!
I'm saying it's actually, it's actually a good thing.
What I'm saying is either way, I don't care how they do it. But, the problem with third and fourth was they normalized magic items.
Magic became mundane. The Fantastic became a mundane thing.
So it was almost like you had to have... Players expected to be able to go buy magic items, because their character was X level and they were under level for magic items or whatever.
Right.
Where in, previous editions, first and second, it was like a gift from the gods when you found the +1 dagger.
Yeah,
it meant something.
Well, even when you look at the charts for a high magic a game and high level, it's you might have 3 pretty nifty magic items. 3 compared to where you had every item slot.
Every item slot.
Well, you know what else too for the magic items? They got 4 tables, and this is for all magic items. Who made it? Why they made it? And does it have a special property it stays clean or...
Right, every item has there's a story behind it because it's that special and unique.
Which is kind of stuff that we would have done in second and first edition.
Well, the staying clean was absolutely a feature that was on the robes that my cleric had. My first
second edition.
Yeah, my first cleric for this group. He had special robes that it was actually somebody threw mud at him and just rolled right off, no mark, no stain.
Well, sometimes it's just little things like that are just kind of cool.
And it's a great role-playing thing.
Yeah, I remember giving out, a longsword that when it drew it, enchanted music would be heard. Yeah, just different things like that, and that kind of stuff is actually in there.
I mean, that's pretty awesome.
So, what else is it? There's ways to build classes and races in there.
I looked at, as you guys out there may or may not have seen, I've been doing a series on, customized or, customized 5th edition races. And I looked through their section, and you really kind of have to read between the lines, because for the custom races, it gives you, hey, here's how to make a sub race and here's how to make a new race. But it doesn't really give you any kind of step-by-step instruction. It says, look through the player's handbook, see how it's already laid out.
The way we did it, do it like that.
And try to emulate it.
And then
here's
there's
an
CPS
example.
reports.
So it gives you, here's the Eladrin sub-race of Elf. And that's your how to make a sub-race.
They brought a lot of the game back from science to art.
Yeah.
And... No, I think a lot of people have liked the customized stuff that I've done, and I've done what it says before it even said it. I've compared it to stuff that's already out there, and the thing is, you just want to try and make it balanced. If anybody says, "Well, screw it, I have to play this," well, then obviously it's too powerful.
It's basically using the underpants gnome equation.
Yes,
Step 2 is always left out, and Step 3 is profit.
Yeah. So. Well, previous editions were very formulaic, and
right.
Here, it's good and it's bad. It's good because everything's spelled out. You know exactly what you can do.
You know exactly what it should be, and it shouldn't be in that and this and that.
But the problem always with like Pathfinder and 3.x is that it is so spelled out that it almost brainwashes everyone into doing anything that isn't written in a book somewhere. It almost sucks the imagination and creativity out of the game that is based off of playing make-believe.
Right.
So... I think that was one of the fundamental problems, in my opinion, with Pathfinder and 3.x, and it happens slowly over time. So you, as players, you don't even realize it. And if that's, God forbid, that's where you start, you don't know any other way. But if you play other role playing games, and you've played previous editions of this game, you just did stuff. You didn't, you didn't worry about whether there was a rule for it or not. There was a DM for that.
Right.
He just said, "Okay, roll some dice."
If if there wasn't a rule for it and he wasn't certain, or he or she, just drop a die and he'll set a number, or she'll make some arbitrary call and see what happens.
Yeah, because in third, it was clearly yes or no. Everything was clearly yes or no.
Yeah.
So I want to do this. No. I want to do that. Yes. Where previously we were like, okay, try.
Yeah, maybe.
Like in the one game that you ran with the one-shot group, the guy wanted to break his halberd, over his knee, and use it because he was in, constrained quarters. Well, if you were playing third edition, he would have to make an attack roll, on the staff, and he would have to do enough damage unarmed to sunder his weapon. And you just said, sure, go ahead. And he went, snap! And he fought with it, and since you said it's still technically a halberd, he could swing the other hand.
Well, a lot of stuff is like, what's fun? And that's how I like to determine how to figure out to do things. I think this book brings it back to that, and this edition of Dungeons & Dragons, it brings the game back to that a lot more. And that same instance, if he would have rolled a 1 to break it, like I set the DC really low because I just wanted him to do it because I thought it'd be fun. But if he would have rolled really low, I would have had it bounce off his knee and him in the forehead and knock him out or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's the idea of if everything is so rules oriented and rules heavy, you can never have anything that's all that cinematic because the conditions have to be just perfect for that thing to have had happened. Whereas if you're a little more loose and fast, it can be a lot more like books and movies. Because
how many times over the years have we been gaming and somebody wants to do something, and all the action stops because we have to look up a rule?
Oh man,
I mean,
so if you keep the rules light,
if you keep it to just a yes or no call, or just I'm not certain, die roll.
Yeah,
it
make a stat check that's relevant, or
it makes it go so much quicker. I ran a game once that I got rid of. All of the basic mechanics. The characters in the game built stuff off of the third edition rules, but it was just, I want to do X. If I thought they could do it, they just did it. If I thought that it was a possibility that they couldn't, they had to drop a die roll, and the die roll, the higher the number, the better they did at it. They rolled
and sometimes
really bad.
Yeah, and sometimes too, it's just all right, if they're rolling a 15 plus, they absolutely are doing this thing.
Right,
absolutely. There's no question about it.
But it kept the story rolling so much quicker, and everybody enjoyed the game because there was no slowdown of this, or let's check out rules, or how long does it take to actually kill this freaking goblin, whatever.
Another example of that was in Juice's game, The Frozen Chosen, where my character just happened to be a hunter for his background. And the party came across a pack of wolves attacking a polar bear. So I'm like, I want to bring down the polar bear because I'm a hunter, and, well, it's a freaking polar bear. And he's like, well, you roll an 18 or higher on a die, and it's an instant kill. And I did. and so it died. I got to kill it, and then I had to fend off the wolves to get to my trophy.
Get your pelt. Yeah, that's right.
Which made for a way more fun than just the hit point slog of bringing down the polar bear and then bringing down the wolves. The wolves. Because on the fly, that DM just said, you know what, this would be more fun for my game, so I'm going to do it like that.
Right.
And it's nice when you give your players memorable moments from the game instead of having this game where, some DMs are very adversarial and, it's like us versus them.
Yeah.
And, it's just not as fun.
And bringing it back to the DMG, this particular version really encourages that kind of philosophy. It tries to say, make it your call. As the person sitting in the DM's chair, you get final say. If there's something that's printed in a book and you don't like it, you have the ultimate power to say, nope, not in my game.
What you do is you just pull out your Sharpie and blot it out.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then somebody's like, but that's my book. I paid $50 for it. Yeah.
Boho.
Not in my game.
Yeah. No. Over my dead body, my dead dice.
So, this DMG, more so than any others, it brings the power back to you, like first and the second edition. It is crazy with the charts. They're all over the place. If you like tables and charts, you're going to love it. And they got cool. They have the random dungeon generator in there.
That's right.
Which that was in first edition. I used to love building dungeons by rolling dice.
Exotic location. It's on the back of a a living gargantuan creature. That's where your dungeon is.
Nice.
That's one of the possible options.
So, you get plenty of that stuff. It's just that total old school feel.
Absolutely.
In the early '80s when they were making all kinds of different games,
and when people were like worshiping Satan and playing Dungeons and Dragons,
pretty much,
yeah.
And, all of the games were all about tables.
Yep.
That was like the focus. I think later on, more recently we could get more story-based games,
right.
But so they brought it back to that bit, and I enjoy it.
But the story is still there. Like, I read very heavily in the beginning, and I got to the point where I'm like, I don't have time. It's the holidays. I cannot just sit down and read all 300 some odd pages here. So I'm like, well, let me just skim through so that we can be able to provide you guys with the content. But in the beginning, it really gives you a lot of useful information on building your world, building the multiverse, building your campaign,
organizations, and different factions
absolutely.
and stuff. That's
so
really cool.
There's a lot of stuff to really
subsystems
guide you in the developing your game and your world, so that you can provide a rich and plentiful environment for your players.
Yeah.
It's a really good toolbox for a DM. It's awesome if you're inexperienced, and even if you're experienced, you're gonna find some good stuff.
Yeah,
in there.
you're gonna hit roadblocks indefinitely. Like, I don't know how this thing works. Let me just dice it out and see what the dice say. Do I like that? Do I want to tweak it? Okay, either way.
And anytime you have a chart, and as a DM, let me roll this up. Well, if you get a roll that you don't like, well, then that's not the option for you. You just roll again.
Or sometimes just reading the options is enough to spark ideas.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And that's what the charts and the tables are about. They can give you inspiration with or without the dice.
Well, to me, the biggest thing that the tables do is they give you permission. They give you permission to make up stuff, and you can see how it's laid out. And even especially with the magic items, when it gives you those 4 or 5 tables, whatever it is, on different ways to tweak your magic items.
Yeah.
I mean, like for a DM who came from 3.5, they're gonna look at that and go, I can change them? It's in the rules?
You mean beyond just adding extra powers?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of great stuff like that in the book. I mean, we're going to do a more in-depth review of the book, maybe a chapter by chapter or a section by section or something.
Absolutely.
But, we couldn't do that until we actually read it.
Yeah.
So with that, with us just kind of glancing through, flipping through, telling you what we've seen so far, what we like, that's what I got.
That just about covers it. Looking at the table of contents here, it's got part 1 to part 2, part 3. We could certainly break it up into 3 different additional videos on that one.
So I don't know, $30 to $50 for this book.
Depending what vendor you get it from. Yeah.
I give it the thumbs up. I like it here. There's a lot of useful information for, as we said, new GMs to old GMs. If you're comfortable with running a game and you want to get into the meat of it, you absolutely can just skim through the beginning stuff and get to the custom stuff and the tables and the magic items and
all the optional rules. There's a lot of optional rules.
So many optional rules.
If you're new to the game, just start reading and pour through it, and it'll give you all the tools you'll need to run a successful game.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, I just a quick 2-minute thing or whatever, just all the optional rules that are put in there, anything that you did like from previous editions, say 3rd or 4th edition, optionally it's there. Yeah, there's ways to put those things back. That you, if some people might have enjoyed those mechanics, you can get a feel for what those things were, and they're back in.
How they look, yeah. And I'll let you guys in on a little secret. Even if they didn't put it in that book, you could still
figure out a way to make
put
it
in your game.
Yeah, exactly.
If the 5th edition is designed for a lower stat point, but I mean, if you run a game where you want to have a magic heavy world and your characters, they want to play in 5th, but they still want that crunch. Well, then you can increase where, how often magic items are found. You can make the magic items that give just generic stat pluses, and throw your gauntlets of ogre power.
One of the other cool things I was reading, like how to create magic items in this edition, right? It's only like this big. It's not very long, but it covers the bases, and the fact that you could actually give out magic item creation formulas as a magic item unto itself.
Nice, cool. Like a ritual or whatever.
Yeah, the how-to, which is kind of cool, because you still have to figure it out. So it's kind of in between, like, 3rd edition and, 1st and 2nd edition. 1st and 2nd edition was crazy to make a magic item. Like, you had to harvest the tears of an angel freely given on Tuesday.
The feather of a phoenix, cooked over an open flame.
So it was really crazy conditions for making magic items. So this is somewhere in between.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having the quest for stuff in order to actually make the item.
I think that's definitely changes the scope of what magic items are. When you have to actually, like, I want to make one magic item. It's not just, give me an afternoon and, a couple, gold pieces worth of ingredients.
Like, the uncommon items, which they still take like 20 days to crank out. One of, And
you don't have people going and, like, ruining your game economy, basically. Cranking out magic items,
A common one you can make in 4 days.
Wow.
Which, I'm not even sure what that... Like, I have to look through and see what's common and uncommon.
If you remember, I made a wizard sorcerer or cleric sorcerer that was, a little skewed to the left. And his whole personality was kind of loosely based off of that orb that we had at the gaming table that would crackle and, make thunder and lightning.
Uh-huh.
And, I played with that as the character to, pretty much be, a little off. And I'm like, dude, I could just make, a wondrous item in game. And therefore, the players, or the characters get to experience this as well. And he made it in like an hour, as a third level character.
Now you can probably still do it, but 3 days or 4 days.
Right, yeah.
So
after you harvest the lightning from a storm giant.
or capture an elemental in it. Come here. Get in, like Pokemon.
So. A newly born elemental.
Right, yeah.
Get me!
On a Tuesday. Yeah.
So, all right, well...
Do we want to wrap this up like a present?
I think so.
Yeah. With that being said, click like, comment, subscribe.
Share even.
Yep. Find us on nerdarchy.com. We have a Reddit, How to Stay Nerdy, Nerdarchy. Was it /r/Nerdarchy? Something like that. We'll have links or something. Yeah.
Well, so, you can find us those places and the Facebooks.
So until next time, my friends,
stay nerdy.